Revelation 2316. From the 28th of April 1942. Greatness of the guilt of men recognized Jesus Christ. You humans cannot assess the magnitude of your guilt towards God, and therefore Christ's act of salvation cannot be made clear to you in its full significance until you have penetrated spiritual knowledge. And that is why the will to reject is often so strong, because the idea of redemption is not compatible with the human being's strongly developed sense of freedom. Thus he does not recognize the constraint of his will as long as he lacks the knowledge about it. And consequently does not recognize the one who redeemed him from the constraint, because he does not experience the constrained state on earth as torment since he has free will after all. He does not know that he would not be able to release himself from this bound state for eternities if Jesus Christ had not accomplished the act of salvation for him through his death on the cross. He does not know about the power of evil, which has great influence on his will as long as he stays on earth, and that he, despite his free will, falls prey to this influence because he himself is too weak to be able to resist it. And he doesn't know about the effect, about the dreadful consequences of a failure of this free will. He does not know that the adversary will put him in chains again for eternities and that he will have to languish in unbearable torment in the beyond if he has to atone for his past wrong against God himself, because he does not know the magnitude of his guilt. Jesus Christ, however, recognized this as a human being, that is the human being Jesus, through his way of life in love, had penetrated into the deepest knowledge of the original state of all beings, of their immense transgression and its effect, that he recognized the human being's weak will and his lack of resistance towards the enemy of his soul. And he wanted to help people to develop a strong will which would withstand the temptations of the enemy and be able to use the time of his earthly change for the final liberation from him and his power, that is his influence. And in order to purchase this increased will power for people, he gave his life on the cross. His blood was the purchase price which was to bring redemption to people from greatest adversity, which he in his perfection well overlooked and therefore wanted to avert from every single human being. His greater than great love wanted to reduce the suffering of the unredeemed souls in the beyond, for he knew that no human being could free himself on earth from the dreadful guilt which the being had burdened itself with due to its apostasy from God. The recognition of this guilt impelled his will into utmost activity, and he accomplished a work which no human being had ever been willing to accomplish before, because it required profoundest love and which no human being had ever been able to accomplish before either, for this act of salvation required immense will power which the man Jesus brought to the highest development through his activity of love and his way of life. And the whole of humanity was to share in this work of redemption. He did not just die for one generation but for all people who, as unredeemed beings, have to walk the path through earthly life in order to finally become free. But the willingness to allow oneself to be redeemed must precede this in order to also be able to partake of the blessings of the work of redemption. The human being has to acknowledge the act of salvation as well as the divine Redeemer Jesus Christ if he wants to belong to those from whom the dreadful guilt against God was taken away through Jesus Christ, who gave himself as atonement in order to reduce the guilt of sin of all beings and to bring them redemption. Amen.